Raymond Ellison scored 197 points on Family Feud Fast Money, 3 points short of $20,000, and when Steve Harvey read the number aloud, Raymond closed his eyes for exactly 2 seconds and then opened them and smiled. A slow, full smile that had nothing to do with the score. Steve stopped mid-sentence. He had hosted this show long enough to know the difference between a man who smiled because he won and a man who smiled because he had already won something the game couldn't measure. He walked to Raymond, placed his cards face down on the podium, and said, "Brother, what's going on with you?" What Raymond told him next, in a voice quiet enough that Steve had to lean in, would be shared 318 million times, cause a Fortune 500 company to publicly reverse its executive access policy, and make a man in a $1,000 suit sit down on the floor of a television stage and put his face in his hands. It was a Wednesday afternoon in late April when the Family Feud studio in Atlanta hummed with its familiar, pre-taping energy. Steve came out working the room, pointing at couples, asking about anniversary years, mispronouncing a man's hometown on purpose for the laugh. The Ellison family walked out second. Raymond, his wife Gloria, his daughter Tanya, his son-in-law Curtis, and his youngest son Marcus, who was 22 and had his father's exact posture, straight back, chin level, hands easy at his sides. Steve noticed the posture. He made a joke about military bearing. Raymond smiled and said he'd never served. Steve said, "Well, somebody taught you right." Raymond said, "My daddy." And 41 years of showing up. Nobody in that studio knew what 41 years of showing up actually meant. But they were about to. Raymond Ellison had been a janitor at Hargrove and Whitfield Financial Partners in Charlotte, North Carolina, for 41 years. He started at 23, the year his first daughter was born, on the overnight cleaning crew, buffing floors, emptying executive waste bins, sanitizing the glass conference rooms that the partners used for their 7-figure client meetings. He had been hired by a supervisor named George Briggs, who told him on day one, "You do good work, you keep your head down, and this job is yours as long as you want it." Raymond had done exactly that. He had kept his head down. He had done good work. And the job had been his. Over 41 years, Raymond had become the lead facilities supervisor. He managed a crew of 11, maintained a building of 84,000 square feet, and had a safety and cleanliness record that had earned the building a certified platinum designation from the National Building Services Association for 7 consecutive years. He knew every pipe, every electrical panel, every vac fault code. He had trained 26 people who went on to management roles of their own. His personnel file contained 41 annual performance reviews. Every single one said the same word in the summary line: exemplary. He had never once been invited to an all-staff meeting. Not once, in 41 years. The all-staff meetings happened in the main conference room on the 14th floor. Raymond had cleaned that conference room 5 days a week for 4 decades. He knew the grain of the table. He knew which chair squeaked. He knew the precise angle of the afternoon light through the west windows. He had never sat in any of those chairs. The origin moment that Raymond carried onto the Family Feud stage happened on a Tuesday morning 14 months before the taping. He was in the building at 6:15 a.m., as he was every morning, doing a pre-business hours check on the lobby floors. A man walked through the front doors at 6:22. Expensive suit, briefcase. The particular expression of a person accustomed to being the most important individual in any given room. Raymond recognized him. His name was Preston Hargrove III, grandson of the firm's founder, newly appointed co-managing partner at 34 years old. Raymond had cleaned his office for 6 years. He knew the man's coffee cup, and the brand of hand lotion he kept in his top drawer. Preston Hargrove III did not recognize Raymond. He had never looked at Raymond directly. He looked at the floor Raymond was buffing and said, "Without breaking stride toward the elevator, you missed a spot by the door. Do better." He did not look up. He did not slow down. Raymond stood with the buffer in his hands and watched the elevator doors close. He stood there for a moment. He was 64 years old. He had been in this building longer than Preston Hargrove III had been alive. He had a platinum cleanliness rating on a plaque in the facilities office with his name on it. He had trained the man who installed the elevator Preston Hargrove III had just stepped into. He buffed the spot by the door. Then he went about his day. He didn't tell Gloria what happened when he got home that evening. Gloria asked how work was, and Raymond said, "Fine." He sat at the kitchen table after dinner and was quiet for a while, and their youngest son Marcus came in and found him there and said, "Dad, you okay?" And Raymond said, "I'm good, son. Just thinking." Marcus sat down with him for a few minutes. Then he went upstairs. And Raymond sat alone in his kitchen and did something he had not done in a very long time. He took out a piece of paper and a pen, and he wrote down one sentence. After 41 years, "A man I have served walked past me and told me to do better." He folded the paper. He put it in his shirt pocket. He carried it to work the next day, and the day after that, and for 3 weeks after that, the way you carry a thing when you are still deciding what it means. The answer came from an unexpected direction. Marcus, who worked in digital marketing and spent his evenings doing what 22-year-olds who are very online do, had been quietly researching something for 6 months. He had not told his father. He had not told his mother. He sat at his own kitchen table with his laptop and his father's 41 years of performance reviews that Raymond kept in a binder in the hall closet, and he had built something. Marcus had applied to Family Feud on behalf of the whole family. He told Raymond it was for fun. He told Gloria it would be an adventure. He did not tell either of them what he had been building in the background, or what he had already sent to 3 investigative journalists and 1 labor law professor at the University of North Carolina. The audience thought they were there to watch a family play a game. They were wrong. And the thing Raymond had been carrying for 41 years, that he had never once asked anyone to carry with him, was about to become visible. Steve would later call what happened next the most important phone call of his professional life. Raymond answered Steve's question, "What's going on with you?" in 4 sentences. He said he had worked in the same building for 41 years. He said a man had walked past him 14 months ago and told him to do better without knowing his name or his record or the 41 years he had given. He said he had come to Family Feud because his son asked him to, and because he needed to be somewhere that day where someone was going to look him in the face. He stopped talking. The studio fell completely silent. Steve Harvey froze mid-step. His smile was gone. He pressed his hand flat on the podium. His head dropped, just for a moment, and then came back up. He stepped back from the podium and looked at Raymond Ellison, this man in his button-down shirt and his good shoes, standing straight the way his father had taught him, chin level, hands easy, 64 years old, and every one of them showing in his face right now. "Cut the cameras," Steve said. Then, "No, don't cut them. Leave them running. This has never happened in the 45-year history of this show, and it's happening right now." A stage manager moved toward the set. Steve held up one hand. He walked toward Raymond. He stood in front of him. He said, "Let me tell you something, Raymond. I slept in a 1976 Ford Tempo for 3 years. I ate out of trash cans behind restaurants in Cleveland. And I know what it is to be in a room where nobody looks at you. I know what it is to be invisible in a space you have earned. Because 35 years ago, I was standing where you're standing, and somebody walked past me like I wasn't there. And I promised God, I promised him, that if he got me out of that car, I would spend the rest of my life making sure I was never the man who walked past. He stopped. He looked Raymond in the eye. He said, low and exact, you built this, not him. The audience was on its feet before he finished the sentence. The crew was not. Hardened television professionals were looking at the floor. Steve wasn't done. He pulled out his phone on the stage of Family Feud, something hosts never do during tapings, and called his personal attorney. He put it on speaker. He said, I need a labor and employment attorney in Charlotte, North Carolina, experienced in workplace dignity violations and 41 years of documented discrimination in promotion access. Raymond Ellison. His son Marcus has the documentation. Retained today, fees covered by my office. He listened. He said, today. He ended the call. He wasn't finished. He turned back to Raymond and told him both families were walking out with the full $20,000 prize. The competing family, the Washingtons from Birmingham, crossed the stage immediately. The eldest Washington, a woman named B, who was 72, took Raymond's hand in both of hers and held it, and said nothing. She just held it. Then Steve turned to the cameras. He said, I want to talk to everyone watching at home. There is a man named Raymond Ellison who has given 41 years of exemplary service to a company whose partner walked past him and told him to do better. I want Hargrove and Whitfield Financial Partners to know that this is the moment they are going to be remembered by, not their portfolio. This moment. Raymond Ellison's name is going to outlast every deal they ever closed. When the episode aired 9 weeks later, it had 89 million views in the first 48 hours. Within 3 weeks, it crossed 318 million. The hashtag #YouBuiltThis trended in 26 countries for 12 days. Hargrove and Whitfield Financial Partners issued a public statement acknowledging a failure to fully recognize the contributions of long-term facilities staff and announcing a company-wide review of recognition and promotion practices. Preston Hargrove III did not comment publicly. 3 months after the taping, the labor attorney Marcus had connected with filed a comprehensive workplace equity complaint with the EOC on Raymond's behalf, citing 41 years of documented exclusion from staff-wide communications, recognition events, and advancement pathways despite exemplary performance records. The case settled 18 months later. Terms were confidential, but Raymond's attorney confirmed in a public statement that the outcome reflects the 41 years Raymond gave. Raymond retired the following spring on his own terms at his own chosen date, with a retirement gathering that included 43 former members of his facilities crew, 2 of the firm's senior partners, and Gloria, who wore the same blue dress she had worn to their wedding 38 years earlier. Marcus gave a speech. He talked about the piece of paper his father had written on and carried in his shirt pocket for 3 weeks. He said, Dad never asked anyone to see him. He just kept showing up until someone did. A year after the taping, the Invisible Giant Fund was established in Raymond's name, dedicated to providing legal advocacy and documentary support for long-term service workers facing workplace dignity violations. Its motto, taken from what Raymond said to Steve backstage after the taping when Steve asked him how he had kept going, is, "You keep showing up because the work matters, even when they act like you don't." To date, the fund has supported 847 workers across 19 states and has recovered more than $4.2 million in settlement outcomes for its clients. Steve spoke about Raymond in a long interview the following year. He said, "The thing people don't understand about Raymond is that he wasn't asking to be a hero. He was asking to be seen. That's it. 41 years of please look at me when you walk past." And when he finally stood at that podium and said it out loud, the whole world looked. 2 years after the taping, Raymond received a letter from a young man named Devin, who had been a part of his crew for 3 years and had moved into facilities management on his own. Devin wrote, "Mr. Ellison, I got the promotion. I wanted you to know because you're the one who taught me that showing up is the whole job. Not just for the building, for yourself." Raymond read the letter at his kitchen table. He read it twice. Then he folded it and put it in his shirt pocket. Gloria watched him from across the table. She said, "Who's it from?" He said, "One of mine." She said, "Good news?" He said, "The best kind." In the pre-dawn hours of a Wednesday morning, in the lobby of a building he had kept for 41 years, a man had buffed a spot by the door that another man told him he had missed. Without a name, without eye contact, without a single one of the 41 years mattering to the man who walked past. Raymond had buffed the spot. He had done his job. He had gone home and written one sentence on a piece of paper and carried it in his shirt pocket until the world was ready to hear what it meant. The world, as it turned out, was ready. It had just needed Raymond to stand somewhere with a microphone, lift his chin, and say it out loud. If this story about Raymond's 41 years of invisible excellence and the moment the world finally looked moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. Share this with someone who needs to know that the work you do in silence is never truly invisible. Have you ever watched someone show up with everything they had and be overlooked? Let us know in the comments. And ring that notification bell, because some people's stories deserve to be told at full volume.